during the forum. Oh, there we go. If you can't get your question in during the forum, very happy to take those afterwards, and we potentially, if it's a useful thing, we'll share that with all the members. We do have our own tech support here. So in the chat, if you're having an issue, just put in your chat to ANZRP tech support. We have a new IT manager, Peter, who I can see through my window here, and he's on board to help you out. We do have a timekeeper. So if you do hear a voice coming in, I think it'll be Anne saying, you know, wrap it up. That's just us trying to keep things on time and on schedule. Those of you who've been to some of these other forums, we do use menti.com as a way to ask a few poll questions live during the session. So we have a few of those, and we'll be asking you to respond to some things. We'll show you the details how to do that. And then post the event, we'd love to get a bit of feedback. And we'll even hit you up right now. There's a QR code there. You can scan that, get into SurveyMonkey. We'll pop that up a few times during the session, just so give you a chance to give us feedback live, because we know what it's like. You have a wonderful session and then you go elsewhere and do your real job and we don't get any feedback. So we're always keen to hear what you think and what you'd like to see next time. So we've got a whole heap more people. We're going to roll into an update from me. That's me many years ago when I didn't have grey hair and had a little bit more of it and a big smile on my face. But just by way of a quick update, at our last session, you will recall we had a guest speaker from the government talking about scheme review and expansion of the NTCRS scheme. Obviously, over the Christmas break, there hasn't been a lot happening, but we have had an update meeting with the regulator. The good news is that they're conscious of our views. You may recall previously we put forward we're keen to see better brand agency with the structure to ensure that brands who are liable parties have better decision to choose who actually services their needs. Good news is we're being listened to, and there's going to be a further consultation. They're going to create some working groups that we'll be able to get involved in. Can't tell you what the answer will be yet, but at least the door is open for us to put forward a position on behalf of the members. Second point, regarding advocacy, so to further support that, we've been developing a position statement because the government has been sort of not being able to decide exactly how they want to go. They've had a few disparate views coming in. We've developed a very concise position statement that is currently being circulated to all the members just to get your feedback, which we hope to finalise in the next week or so. And then we'll be returning that back to you, final version with some briefing notes and even a template letter. And we'll be encouraging members to write directly to Minister Plibersek, who's responsible for this area, to express our opinion as to the needs for the changes to get better brand agency. We feel it's very important for the members themselves, the companies, to be expressing their opinion to the government as well as us. So that's just part of our advocacy process. You'll be getting more information in your email about that. Scheme targets, we're a bit over halfway through the year. Our collections are on track, which is great. Reasonable access is almost achieved. We have one more collection event to run, and then we've met reasonable access. And MRT, our material recovery target, which is a target of 90%, we're happy to say that's on the improve because we now have a plastic solution in place, which you'll hear more about that from Shane. Whether we get to the 90%, well, we're going to be close, but we're certainly on the improve now. We have a solution for plastics, which I mentioned there, plastics. So the Resonate plant, which you've heard us talk about, you're going to get a lot more detail about that today. It's now operational. It's now accepting and processing plastic from our e-waste providers, which is great news and a great outcome after quite a lot of work and effort. Just people can put themselves on mute when they join. Thank you. Branding, many of you have potentially been involved in the research we've undertaken recently to look at branding. We're having a look at the ANZRP and Tech Collect branding to ensure that it's relevant and contemporary in the sort of the evolving world of circular economy and product stewardship and so on. And as part of that, we're also doing some surveys around member experience, which many of you may have also got a phone call from our survey company, Seguity. So if you get someone ringing up from Seguity and they say they're supporting ANZRP, it's not a spam call. So please take their call. It's only an 8-minute call, but it really helps us gauge what the members need and making sure we can continue to provide great service for you. So thank you for those who have been involved. We've had a lot of good response, and we're getting good information that will help us in the future. So thanks again for that. That is my really quick little summary, but we also need to do just a little introduction. We have a few new staff members. Jan's online there. You can wave Jan. He's got his camera on. There you go. Jan van der Graaf joined us at the start of the year. Jan's our new strategic comms and advocacy manager. He's working on a lot of these important advocacy activities right now. Jan's actually been involved in the NTCRS even longer than I have. He was with Sustainability Victoria back in the days with Bite Back, which was almost an early precursor to the NTCRS. So he's well experienced in this space. We also have Peter Kakalaris, who's our new IT manager. He's the one who's going to help you out on the chat if you have any issues. We're doing a major review at the moment of our database and business systems to make sure they're fit for purpose to serve both ours and our member needs. And then Rena Huang, who's our new brand and marketing lead. So all of this work that we're going to be doing, looking at our brand and positioning, Rena will be heavily involved in all of that. So we're really pleased to have them on board, and that'll enable us to continue to deliver for our members. So that is it from me, other than just introducing people and so on. What I would like to do, we don't have any questions. No one's saying anything good. What I would like to do is I'm going to pass over to the dynamic duo of Marty Brown and Kat Harding, who ANZRP have been working with them for over a year now, partnering with them or e-waste collection and reuse. Marty and Kat are from a social enterprise they founded called Pony Up for Good, and I'll hand over to them and for their presentation.
Thank you, Warren. Good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Marty Brown, and the other lovely lady who I can't see on the camera, but I'm sure is there, in stripes is Kat Harding, and we are the co-founders of Pony Up for Good. You're there, Kat?
I am. Hi.
Oh, there you are.
I muted myself and I forgot to unmute myself, but I am here.
Good morning, everyone. So thank you for ANZRP for inviting us along today. We're excited and we're excited to chat with you about something that I hope you will be also mildly exhilarated by. Today, we're going to share with you how we can turn decommissioned technology into fresh, healthy meals for people in need. And also into a meaningful and measurable ESG program. But before we kick off, what we'd like to do is just take a bit of a beat of the room and do a quick Menti poll. So we'd like to ask you to log in if you have not already, scan the QR code. And this will just help us get a nice lock on what the priorities of everyone is in the room. I'll leave you to flick through that, Kate. Guide the journey through. So what we'd like you to do is just take a moment to quickly rank in order of importance for your organisation the following ESG outcomes. We'll just take about 15 seconds to do that if that's okay. Oh, I like this. Excellent. Measurable community impact is taking the gold in a very acceptable colour there. Measurable waste reduction data, fantastic. Indigenous employment and social procurement spend. Fantastic. Thank you for everyone for doing that. That gives us a really nice pulse on the room. Thank you. I might just take a quick photo of that and we will jump into our next slide. And over to you, Kat.
Lovely, thanks. So I wanted to start today just with a little bit of background about Marty and I and how we ended up with a business called Pony Up for Good. It's nothing to do with ponies. Marty and I have known each other since we were 19 years old, and we've been friends for a very long time. We both had corporate careers, and in 2016 we both made a firm decision to make the leap, as we call it, from our corporate careers to something more meaningful. Marty was the head of marketing for a chain of hotels, and I was the internal communications manager for a large utility. And after a few Long Island iced teas one night, we made the decision that we both felt that there was something missing from our lives in terms of the level of meaning in the jobs that we were doing, and we both felt that was something that we could give that was more meaningful. And so we left our jobs and we both embarked on a journey to develop a business that was our own. The key things that we knew that we wanted to achieve. We knew we wanted a social enterprise, and we knew we wanted to tackle some social issues. We didn't know what that looked like, but we knew that that was sort of at the heart of what we wanted to be doing, and we felt that was something that we could do that would get us out of bed every day. And we knew we wanted to have an environmental impact as well. So we spent an awful lot of time sitting at the NAB Village, running over different ideas and looking into different social issues and environmental issues to see what we thought we could build that was going to make a difference in the world. I'll just get you to pop to the next slide if I can.
So we really threw ourselves into the research to uncover what some of the not only global but local Australian big issues were in the environmental sort of crisis across the country and around the globe. And what we found is that the world produces now, these numbers have exponentially grown since we started 8 years ago, that the world produces last year 61.3 million tonnes of electrical waste, and only about 17% of that is being formally recycled. The estimated value of raw materials in that e-waste is worth about $72.5 billion annually. And we know that 90% of the e-waste that can be recycled, to reclaim precious metals, including gold, silver, copper, platinum, nickel. So those things can be recycled. So this is the research that we threw ourselves into that started the veins bulging in our heads and keeping us awake at night. And then reciprocally to that, we looked at what are the social issues. If we just jump to the next slide, thanks, Kate. We looked really at what the social issues were and the community issues were, and what were those heavy hitters that we were experiencing across Australia as being some of the worst problems. Now, as a nation, we waste around 7.3 million tonnes of food each year. And that's about 300 kilos per person. And at the same time, we are the fresh produce that is grown in Australia is wasted, and that's enough to fill the MCG 9 times. Now, reciprocally on the other side of that, 3.7 million homes in Australia experience food insecurity in the last 12 months. So that's about 1 in 3 individuals who have actually sought relief from food relief agencies in the last 12 months. And that's a huge opportunity for us to actually, or it's a huge crisis, but it's also a huge opportunity. So if we flick to the next slide, they were really some of the big things that we found in our research. So we decided to do something about it. We produced a business model, and this is it. Our process is quite simple. Pony Up for Good collects decommissioned technology from our corporate partners, and we collect it. We take it through risk mitigation and data destruction processes. We have a reuse first policy in line with EPA standards, and anything that we are unable to reuse, 100% of that goes through to our wonderful partners at ANZRP, who offer a fantastic service. And really where the rubber hits the road now is in the 50% of our profits are donated to the excellent humans at Second Bite, who are a food rescue charity here in Australia, and we're going to jump into who they are and what they do in just a moment. But essentially, we have an operational network across Australia who we triage our technology through, and they provide a range of certified processes for us for logistics, data destruction, secure chain of custody, reuse channels, and providing us with the data and information that we need to be able to provide that back to our clients. And the great thing about this process is that it gives us the data to be able to provide you or our clients with a meaningful and measurable ESG program. So we provide you with data and metrics that show how many kilos of technology is diverted from landfill, what we were able to reuse by weight, and how many fresh meals we turn that into. And we'll go into it in a bit more detail in a moment, but that then turns into a team engagement and ESG outcomes that we also provide services for. So if we can jump to the next slide.
So I'm just going to spend a couple of seconds talking about Second Bite. When Marty and I first started building out the model for Pony Up, we went and met with all of the main players in the food rescue space. They all do incredible work, but we fell almost instantaneously in love with the team at Second Bite. We were very fortunate that the CEO at the time was one of the founding fathers of social enterprise in the United Kingdom, and so he really understood very quickly what it was that we were looking to achieve. They are the largest fresh food rescue charity. So by fresh food, that means that they're collecting from farmers, from markets, from supermarkets, and primarily they're focusing on fresh fruit and vegetables. So a lot of it is, a farmer who has to deliver 1 million apples might have to grow 1.5 million apples because 500,000 of them might have marks on their skin or be the wrong shape or anything else that will blow your mind, but they're perfectly edible. They will take that food and they'll make sure it gets to the plates of the people that need it. They deliver it to schools and community groups that make sure that those that are going without have access to fresh food. It blows my mind to think that this food, which is perfectly edible, is creating a huge environmental issue by virtue of the CO2 impact that it has when it's breaking down in landfill while people are going without food. So they are really tackling that issue. Last year, they rescued more than 25 million kilos of food from across Australia from ending up in landfill, and made sure that it made it to the plates of people that need it most. It impacts everywhere in Australia. So they have warehouses in every capital city, but they also have what's called Community Connect in regional areas as well. So they're able to actually deliver outcomes everywhere in Australia, which was one of the other reasons that we were really keen to work with them, because it's not focused in Melbourne or focused in Sydney. It genuinely has an impact everywhere across the country. Next slide. So Marty alluded to this a little bit earlier. One of the things that we like to think of as a little bit of our superpower is that we don't come from a background of technology. Marty and I have had to learn everything that we know now about secondhand tech since we launched Pony Up, but where we have bucket loads of experience is in the comms and marketing space. And so we like to work with our partners to deliver communication and team engagement programs that are really meaningful. So we take the data that Marty mentioned before, the sort of the 3 key points of data. We develop communication packs. At its most basic sense, it's launch articles and social media announcements around what we've been able to achieve together. We often set targets with our clients of let's feed 50,000 people by Christmas. We have clients that we have exceeded more than 100,000 meals with since we've been partnering. So we love to tell the story as we go along. We do tech amnesties where we get employees to bring in equipment from home and make sure that they have access to recycling services within their office, particularly at the moment where it's been quite challenging to get people to come back into the office. A lot of people have been using that as a great offering. We do case studies with a lot of our clients and PR releases. So it's really just a matter of what it is that you would like to achieve. But we really love to get the teams involved and share the good news story of what we're able to achieve together with everyone.
Next slide. So let's jump into and just talk a little bit about how we pony up with ANZRP. So they offer a great service. We've been working with ANZRP since October 2022, and they provide us with logistics, a great service, everything's on time. We absolutely love working with them. And 100% of our recycle-only collections now go through ANZRP, which we're very happy to say. And since we commenced our journey with them, if we can just jump to the next slide, we have been able to divert over 30,000 kilos of technology from landfill. We have donated over 15,000 fresh meals for people in need. And as I said before, that 100% of our tech is processed, of our recycling is processed via ANZRP recyclers. And in fact, when we update, I know I got a sneak peek at our figures, and I know that when we update those figures next quarter, that meal donation target is actually exceeding well over $20,000. So 20,000 meals, I should say, 20,000 fresh meal donations. So that's a great achievement, and that has allowed us to utilise ANZRP services, and this has been the outcome of that collaboration. So if we can go to the next slide. So what we want to talk to you about today is about throwing out a challenge for a tech reuse pilot. And I know that this is not a new topic and that Warren has been exploring this with you for some time now, but we're asking you to go away and think about how this could benefit your organisation, and to get in contact with ANZRP if it is something that you would like to explore as a pilot opportunity. And so for the next couple of minutes, we're going to really share some of the business benefits that we have observed over the last 8 years about tech reuse. So the challenge is thrown down. We always, when we want to pilot a new program of work with a client, we always have that throwaway line of how do we know if the plane flies? We ask the pilot. So we're throwing it out there to you today. And if we can jump to the next slide.
Do you mind if I just jump in for 2 seconds? I just want to,
of course you can,
pause and just highlight the two little logos in the left-hand corner underneath.
Yes.
Pilot friend, just to highlight that Pony Up for Good is a Social Traders certified social enterprise, which means that Social Trade, we were one of the very first social enterprises in the country to undergo the Social Traders certification. It means that they check our financials on the regular to make sure that we do exactly what we say we do, and we have a big rubber stamp. If you are measuring your social procurement spend, it means that any spend with Pony Up for Good can go directly to that target. Because we are certified. And sitting next to that, you'll find the People and Planet First. That is a global certification, which actually enables us to be recognised globally as an accredited social enterprise. And I just wanted to point those out because they're pretty.
Excellent. So look, from an environmental and social governance perspective, we're probably not going to be sharing anything on this slide that you don't know as operational and sustainability professionals already. But what we have learned is that these benefits can be turned into a business and an ESG advantage. We know that it makes most of the carbon emissions. We know it makes most of carbon emissions produced in manufacturing. We know that that decreases. We know that it's less waste. We know that less virgin materials are used. We know that there's a decrease in the consumption of water and CO2. But what it also gives us is meaningful and measurable ESG data. It feeds people in need and gives quality, low-cost technology to people across the country and internationally who may not be able to afford it new. And the big one that we wanted to share with you today is also a new opportunity that we are currently exploring with Ethan Indigenous. You may already know about Ethan Indigenous already or have heard of them. We're working on an additional arrangement with Ethan Indigenous to be able to add employment opportunities for First Nations youth, which is a great opportunity and something we are very excited to be exploring. It's in early days, so watch this space. As I said, some of you may have already heard about them. What they do essentially is train young Indigenous people in the IT industry to give them lifelong qualifications. So not only will this opportunity provide project employment opportunities for Indigenous youth, but it will also give you a securer data erasure or data destruction criteria by being able to do your Blanco wipes, for example, on site. So early days, please reach out and ask us more about that. It's an exciting opportunity that is coming through ANZRP in a bit of a tripartisan arrangement, but can certainly be used individually as well. And if we can go to the next slide.
Well, you do. I'm going to jump in again because apparently I like the things in the bottom left-hand corner. I just wanted to point out the Sustainable Development Goals icons that are down there. What we know is that a huge number of businesses are hanging their sustainability strategy on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and the work that we do here at Pony Up plugs very neatly into 9, 12, 13 and 2, and we can certainly chat to you about how we can make that data work for you in terms of contributing to the things that you're measuring. And now we can go to the next slide. So the other thing that the next thing that I wanted to chat about is the economics. Marty and I often give a presentation called "Doing Good Equals Doing Well," and you know what we know, and I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but is that particularly the millennials and the Gen Z, who we know already make up 40% of the workforce and will earn $2 out of $3 earned in this country by 2030. So they are the market, they are the future. They are absolutely 100% researching every brand's environmental impact and policies before they work with them, before they buy from them, and they are prepared to pay more for sustainable products and services. So this isn't just about doing the right thing, although we all love to do the right thing. It's also an incredibly commercial decision that you need to be making about who you want to be in market and how you want to present yourself to your future and prospective employees, and your future and prospective customers and consumers. Next slide, please. So one of the things we do talk about when we do our doing good equals doing well is measuring ROI. So looking at the groups that we've just talked about before, the millennials and the Gen Zs. If you're running an ANZ, sorry, I just saw Anne's question pop up. If you're running an ESG program, how do you know that it's actually having that commercial impact? And one of the things that we encourage our partners to do is to measure their return on investment by engaging with the HR teams in particular. The HR teams can help you measure time to hire. If you've got a new starter survey in your business, you should be asking them why they've come to work for you, and making sure that there's a question in there around the ESG programs that you're running. Similarly, when people depart, whether or not they're saying it's because you're not doing enough of that sort of stuff. So they're really key things. Your employee engagement survey should have questions, and again, upon engagement we can help you draft all of this because it's stuff that we've done with many of our clients, and we know from the work that we've done that there's been a significant increase in employee engagement when they are doing programs around ESG. We've had very clear and direct feedback and measurable feedback from our clients that show that there is an improve in the engagement of their employees when they're doing things that get them excited and make them passionate about coming to work and that they are proud of. Additionally, there's measuring, social engagement around content that goes out on social media. I know we did a social post for one of our key clients that got more than 100,000 views. And when we looked at what their usual content has, it was nearly 10 times the engagement that they get on most content that they pump out through their socials. So we know that the engagement for this type of content was high for that particular client. But that there in of itself is an opportunity to go back to the finance teams when you're looking for budgets and show where you've been able to make a difference within the business in a meaningful and measurable way.
And can I just add also there that the top point in the commercials column is in the winning tenders side of things. We work with a lot of our clients on the daily to help them create selection criteria, unique and tailored selection criteria for their tenders. So we all know that when you are submitting a tender, that the selection criteria is quite heavily weighted depending on the submission around community impact, environmental, what are you doing by way of engaging your teams, stakeholders and supply chain in these activities. And we do work with our clients really closely to help them create that content and as a bolt-on service to show a circular solution for their services when they're decommissioning technology. So we work with a lot of managed services organisations as well, and we have some really great outcomes there, and they tend to latch on to a lot of everything that we do in that perspective.
Conscious that we're running out of time, Mard, so we might have to cross on the next thing and get into questions. So if we can flip to the next, I haven't told you the big news. The big news is that that's our stats update since we started. So we launched in 2016. We will by the next announcement we will have passed half a million kilos of technology collected from across the country. We have passed 750,000 meals donated to Second Bite. We are expecting to hit 1 million meals by the end of this year, and we have reused 35.3% of that. Now, that figure fluctuates between about 35 and 40, depending on the level of recycling that we're doing. But we're certainly using well over a third of what comes through the business. Questions?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we can come back to the Menti poll after the questions.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Kat. This is Rena from ANZRP. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat window or raise your hand. We've got a couple of minutes before our next session for any questions for Kat or Marty.
Can I ask a question then? Your clients, in terms of obviously not the OEM brands, but the people who have the equipment, who are some of your notable clients?
Oh, good question. So we were very fortunate when we launched as a business. Our second client was Australia Post. Our fifth client was Telstra. But we've got more than 200 clients across the country that we work with. They include banks, IT companies. We work with NAB, ANZ. We're quoting on a new job for the Commonwealth Bank at the moment. Marty, what are some of your key?
Red Energy, Zero, Lumo, to name a few. So we certainly do work with some of the big organisations across Australia.
And to that point, I'd like to add, one of the joys of our business model is we have so many different partners that we're able to work with, and we're able to bring the right people to the table. We're yet to meet a logistics requirement or a security requirement that we can't meet. We are very, very lucky. We have so many different partners, including ANZRP. But when we're looking at data cleansing, there isn't anywhere in the country that we can't service, and there isn't any security requirements that we can't meet. So we're able to meet everything clients need, basically.
And I'm seeing a question that's come through. Who does your refurbishment? Are there any limits on what technology you can accept? That is an excellent question. By way of technology, as a starting point, we can refurbish all administrative technology, so desktops, laptops, monitors, that type of thing. But we also have some specialist services to be able to decommission, refurbish and reuse network and server equipment. We have come across some weird and wacky piles of technology. We obviously always work with clients on a reuse first policy, and we do go above and beyond to be able to rehome that technology. Who do we work with? We have about 12 different reuse partners across the country. If you're interested to learn more from a compliance perspective, we'd be really happy to chat to you about that offline, just given the timing. But we have about 12 different reuse partners across the country who we use for our logistics, our data destruction and reuse channels. And we can certainly provide that information for you. But I think we are almost out of time.
We are out of time. So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of us, and thank you to the amazing team at ANZRP for setting up today. And if you're interested to chat to us further, you can just reach out to your favourite person at ANZRP and they'll pop you in touch with us, and they'll send you the pack as well.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Happy Thursday.
Thank you, Marty, and thank you, Kat. Your energy and enthusiasm was up to your regular standard that I expect. It was interesting to note when you do the numbers, it's nearly 1 kilo a day of food waste per person. That's just, you think about it, that's
Yes.
phenomenal. And I love your comment about meaningful and measurable ESG outcomes. I mean, that's so on point at the moment. So yeah, and just for everybody else, we're enjoying working with Pony Up, and as mentioned, we're seriously looking at what role should ANZRP play in supporting the reuse space, and how can we do that? It's a growing and emerging issue in our space. The government regulator is looking at how it gets incorporated in our program. So we're keen to see what we can do. So if there's any members brands out there who are also thinking about this space, please reach out, have a chat. So Marty and Kat, I hope you hang around and hear the rest of our wonderful speakers. And thank you for keeping on time. Well done, you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Wesley Van Zanden from the East Arnhem Regional Council. I have not had the pleasure of meeting Wesley yet, but he has been dealing with Janine Murdoch and her team in our ops team for many years now, where we've been servicing the East Arnhem Regional Council with collections in Indigenous communities. So welcome aboard, Wesley. I'd love to hear your presentation.
Yeah, thanks for having us. As I said, my name's Wesley. I'm the Regional Manager for Waste and Environment at East Arnhem Regional Council up here in the Northern Territory. Out of the blue, I got asked to do a presentation for this members forum, so I'm pretty excited to do that and hopefully give you guys a bit of an understanding of some of the challenges in the remote space and see some of the things that as a partnership we've still been able to achieve. So we'll start with the next slide and introduce where East Arnhem is and who we are. So like I said, we're in the Northern Territory, so we're in the further northeasternmost part of the Northern Territory on the top of the Gulf of Carpentaria. It's about 600 kilometres from Darwin, and it is on the left, you can see the light grey area is our local government area, so it's approximately 33,000 square kilometres. For our council, we service 9 remote Indigenous communities, 5 of which are located on islands. So starting from the left, we've got Milingimbi and Galawinku islands, then we've got Ramingining and Gapawiak on the mainland. And then over where I live in Nhulunbuy, we've got Gunagara and Yirrkala. And then down in the Groot Archipelago, we've got Miliakra, Anuragu and Umbakamba. And there's about 9,000 residents, 90% odd Indigenous, and predominantly the Yolngu and the Anandiliakwa people. As a council ourselves, we do a bit more than the standard council. Like obviously we do all the local government stuff and waste and environment, but we're also one of the few services here. So we get involved in aged care, disability services, children, family, library services. We run a veterinary service for all our communities as well. And youth sport and recs, we run like basketball, football competitions within all the communities too. So next slide. Yes, so about 5 years ago, we created a 10-year waste management strategy. And so I just thought I'd just pull out a little bit of that so you can see where we've come from and what we're trying to achieve, even though we're quite remote. And we're not reinventing the wheel. We basically try and do what everyone else is doing, minimize the health impacts, minimize environmental impacts, increase local opportunities for employment and recycling, reduce all our waste, and wherever we can, increase resource recovery, which over the last decade we've slowly done a good job of. Next slide. And just bear with me, my internet's super slow, so I'm about 10 seconds behind everyone. So in the challenges that we have are pretty obvious. If you looked at where we were on the map, we're super remote. We're probably the most remote council in the Northern Territory from any major service provider. And then our distance between our communities is very significant. So we can't really drive between our towns. So I took a few photos from my charter planes as I fly between the communities, just so you can sort of see some of the environment that we have to work with up here. And that community in the center of the page, I believe, is Reminginney. So that's sort of right in the middle of our local government area. But all that distance and remoteness creates lots of issues around serviceability and logistics, as well as the cost to move things, the cost to get things back to Darwin for recycling. And like I said, we're in a remote Indigenous area. They only came out of missions like 15, 20, 30 years ago. Mining and money only came to these areas in the 60s. So things around education and training and staff retention are quite big challenges in these spaces as well. Next page. So our partnership, I was trying to find the data on how long we've actually been in partnership with Tech Collect for, and I couldn't find it, but Katie called me this morning and let me know that it was 2014. So we've been partnering for almost a decade now with ANZRP. So that's pretty cool for such a remote place. And I've only got the data since 2018, but we've collected approximately 12,000 kilograms of e-waste in that period, which for less than 9,000 people, not many service, like we don't have many industries or anything like that. It's really local government, schools, a few shops and some construction companies. So it's a really good effort that the people in these communities actually do try and separate their waste. And like I said at the start, we don't do anything fancy. We've got our drop-off areas at our council depots and some separation bays at our landfills. And we really just try and advertise and promote separation of as much as possible into these areas so that where we can palletize it, wrap it up, send it back to Darwin, and then engage with companies like this product stewardship scheme to actually get it recycled. So it's been a really good partnership for us. On to the next slide. Some of our other recycling that we've done that we're pretty proud of is we've done scrap metal, which has been a big effort for us to gather that many cars. So we've done almost 2,000 tonnes of recovery of scrap metal to date, which hadn't been done in the East Arnhem region for about 30 years. So to get that much tonnage of scrap metal out of our communities has been a really big and costly achievement. And one of the other ones that we're really proud of is mobile muster. I think 3 of the last 5 years we've been the NT winner of the most collection in the state, of just around 250 kilograms since we started partnering with mobile muster. And on to the next slide. We're one of the few remote communities in the Northern Territory that does cash for containers. So it's called a few different things in different states, but the container deposit scheme we started in 2019, and we've collected over 2 million containers across our communities. So we focus on all of our remote communities. Some of the other councils only do it in their major areas where they have a bigger population of people, whether we try and get all our communities, including our little islands, and make sure they're all engaged. And the big thing for us is because there's such a small amount of money and job opportunities and things like that in these communities, being able to put almost $20,000 back into the communities, into people's pockets, has been quite rewarding for me, because I've been up here for almost 10 years myself. So I get to see some of the poverty and things that people have to deal with. So that's been a really cool thing for me to see. And I think this is the last slide, if I'm not mistaken. It should be the challenges and what you guys, as the product stewardship schemes and businesses can do to help? Is that right? Still hasn't popped up for me. Yeah, nailed it. So the big one for us being really, really remote is reverse logistics, being able to get things back to regional centres. And all these things really fall into that. So we partner heavily with as many product stewardship schemes as we possibly can. And that's why, we've been with Tech Collect for almost 10 years, because they give us an avenue to get things out of the landfill and away from our communities. We don't have the capabilities to remanufacture or process things ourselves. So we really try and strive to access these sort of government initiatives. But the biggest challenge is actually, how do we get the stuff from our islands and our small communities back to places like Darwin? And that's really across the top end. And even in some of the remote New South Wales and Queensland areas that are more inland, is a lot of the stewardship schemes and recycling initiatives, they haven't set themselves up yet to actually service these remote communities. And I understand why, but that is the biggest challenge to us to participate. And that's why not many councils actually engage in the schemes, because they just don't have the funding or the companies involved to help them get the resources back to places like Darwin. And then some of the other things I sort of thought of when doing this that could help with these sort of schemes is support around collection and advertising. So having logos and things on collection boxes, which again is really difficult for us, because I've talked to Janine and people about this, is the cost to send a Tech Collect box up to Nhulunbuy and then fill it up and send it back, and then back and forth is actually, it's very expensive. So I understand why that doesn't happen, but that's something that having that promotion and incentivization programs would really support the remote councils. And then looking at whether it's funding or grant opportunities, just small $5,000, $10,000 things to put back into these reverse logistics. So if I know that other councils, if they had an opportunity to have, say, $20,000 to be able to send recycling back to a place like Darwin through the barges and the road freight, that's something that they would jump on. But that was just things I came up with. But yeah, thank you very much for listening to me. This is my next slide's my last slide. So I really appreciate inviting me to be here. And any questions?
Thank you, Wesley. Really appreciate that. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat window or raise your hand. We do have a couple of minutes for a couple of questions. Janine, I can see your hand raised. Would you like to jump off mute?
Thank you. Thanks so much, Wesley. That was really, really interesting. I was actually still at ANZRP or Tech Collect when the site license agreement was actually signed in 2014. And I do recall how proactive the council were at the time, and obviously you've just kept going. I didn't realise you'd been there the 10 years as well.
No, I've been in the region for 10 years.
And I'm really pleased that you see that the partnership has been a success as well, because we certainly do. But my question to you is, with the increase in the population within some of the communities, and I'll use Galawinku, who has recently been on the census, so we provide a service there. We've always provided a service there. Do you see more awareness and participation within the communities, particularly with the children?
Specifically to e-waste, I'd say no, but generally around the ideas around recycling and segregating waste, definitely. And Galawinku is actually one of the stronger communities for that. The the school, I can't pronounce it. The school up there do a really good job with their programs around recycling and really promoting litter management and segregation of waste and things like that. So you do see it, but yeah, like specifically to one type of waste, I wouldn't say you notice it, but as a general consensus, it is, yeah.
Yeah. And it's been pleasing over that 10 years that we started off with one change or collection a year, but we've gotten, we've increased to 2 and 3 sometimes for some of the communities. So it's obviously doing what it should be doing. My second question, do you see any opportunities for ANZRP to partner with the communities in other areas outside of the e-waste, such as sponsorship of community groups or educational training within the schools?
Yeah, definitely. The schools are always open to whether it's training or materials that they can use to help put into their actual curriculum. Particularly Gallowinko and Gappawiak have been quite receptive to that in the past around plastic recycling and some of the hazardous waste things that we've done previously. And yeah, definitely some of the local groups that, particularly if they're regional. So Alpha is one of the Arnhem Land corporations here. So they run all the shops for the grocery stores. So that would be the sort of company that could really benefit from some collaborative approaches.
Okay. Thanks very much, Wesley.
Thank you, Wesley, and thank you, Janine. Do we have any other questions, Rena? Anyone online? Doesn't look like
At this
that.
stage.
Okay, Wesley, thank you so much. I'm really quite proud of the fact that ANZRP has been partnering with East Arnhem Regional Council for 10 years, and it is a point of difference for ANZRP to many of the other co-regs, because as you point out, it is expensive to do, to provide that service, but it's something we are certainly keen to do, and we are actively looking at trying to figure out how can we do more of it, because there's many other Indigenous communities that aren't getting the service. We'd like to see what we can do. So thank you for your efforts as well for the last 10 years. So please stay on as well. We have one more presenter who's going to talk about plastics recycling, which could be quite interesting for you, Wesley. Just as a little reminder, we're popping up the feedback form. If you want to just scan that on your phone now, so you've got it and you can provide some feedback while it's fresh in your mind. And then we're going to go into our last speaker, Shane. Good-looking young man there. He's obviously been for a surf today. He's got the tan. Shane is from CRDC Victoria. ANZRP has been working with CRDC for several years now on a plastics recycling project. The plastic that gets recovered from e-waste, it's about 25% of the material that is recovered. It's a problematic waste stream, and there's minimal solutions for it in Australia. Fortunately, Shane and CRDC have a solution, and so we developed a partnership, formed a JV, and very happy to say we now have a factory that is up and running and processing e-waste plastic. So Shane's going to give you a bit of a story about CRDC as a whole, and over to you, Shane.
Thanks, Warren, and yeah, thanks to the other presenters. It's been really inspiring to hear the work that's getting done in this space, and thanks to ANZRP for having me along today to share a bit about it. As Warren mentioned, my role is with CRDC in the Australasian region, and specifically I'm engaged with the CRDC ANZRP joint venture, which we're very proud to be a part of in Victoria. So I'll take you through a few slides. I'd like to tell you a little bit about it. I haven't been for a surf today, Warren, but there's still a few hours left in the afternoon. But realistically, at the heart of it, that's where we were born from as a global organization. We really were a group of people, men and women, who had a real desire to do something with the waste that was impacting our environment. So our mission, what we call our call to action, is to create appreciating value from the world's plastic waste. But as we do this, we want to really have an impact environmentally, economically, but also socially. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the social projects we're engaged in, along with some of the environmental benefits. So yeah, take us through to our next slide. I'm not going to labor this point because I know as a group who are thinking about sustainability, as a group who are responsible for management of waste, we're all painfully aware of the problem. Basically what it is, the number that is recycled or reused or rejuvenated is it's improportionately lower than what ends up in landfill, the environment, or incineration. So disproportionately, we really wanted to try and change those numbers. We want to see waste getting diverted from landfill and from the environment. So we're all aware of the problem, and that's why we're together to do things about it. So I won't labor that point, but I'll just share a bit about what we're doing in regards to helping with the problem and also with ANZRP in this regard. So I'll have a look at our next slide. So CRDC as a technology, and I'll talk a little bit about this in a moment, effectively we take any and all type of plastic waste. We can convert it into a lightweight resin aggregate that we can utilize in construction. And I'm going to explain that in a moment, but just to give you how broad the feedstock can be, we accept municipality waste. So that's just typical community waste. You'll see one of our workers there holding up 2 bags of just commingled, mixed, dirty plastic waste. We, very importantly, like to see the high value waste stay in the cycle. So we want to see plastic stay as it can be for as long as it can be. But we recognise a lot of council waste, because of cross-contamination or organic impacts, just typically is getting sent straight to landfill. Well, we can take and process that. Environmental waste, the middle one, that was our driver right at the start. For me, the journey began when I was in what I would have considered one of the most remote and pristine parts of the globe, surfing, and I saw half of a washing machine float past me, and I was just devastated. And that started a drive to be engaged in something that could have an impact on environmental waste. As an organisation, CRDC, we're heavily engaged in environmental cleanup projects right throughout the globe, and something we're very passionate about, because we can actually take this dirty, commingled, impacted environmental waste, and we can use it for an appreciating asset, a commodity. And then industrial waste, so post-industrial waste, just waste that comes out of consumerism and industry. So if we think particularly about e-waste, which is something we're all very aware of and we're seeking to have an impact on, we really love to see, and it's been spoken of today, how electronic items can be rejuvenated and returned to the community, and that is a fantastic outcome. Then we like to see it to be recycled and all of the valuable commodities pulled out of it and returned to where they can be utilized. But at the end of all of that, there are still plastics that are commingled, they're impacted by additives, and they typically have no value and they haven't had a recycle end market. And that's where ANZRP had the foresight to partner with CRDC, and that's why we were able to open our facility in Melbourne, because we're capable, and we in fact are doing right now, today, and every day this week and every day last week, we're processing commingled plastic e-waste along with soft plastics and community plastics, and we're converting it into our construction commodity. So that's something we're doing right now at a scale of close to a tonne every hour. But that's how broad the feed of plastics can be that come into the CRDC or the Resonate plants. We'll have a look at the next slide, if that's all right. So a little bit about what Resonate is. We call it a scalable solution because one line of our process can do 1 tonne of product per hour. So that has a dramatic impact, particularly when you see bags and bales of plastic disappear in a day and get converted into construction commodity. So as I mentioned, we take all 7 types of plastic waste. We like to see the high value plastics stay in the system, but with whatever can't be reused or recycled, then we convert it into Resonate. And Resonate is a high value eco aggregate. So it's not a construction filler. It actually has construction credentials on its own. It has a dramatic and positive impact on the thermal values of the buildings that we go in, on the fire ratings, on the construction strength. It makes products lighter in weight, so it has a dramatic impact on transport and engineering costs. And obviously, it has significant benefits for the environment and the community, which, you know, I'll talk to about a little bit as we move forward. But that's the product that we're making right now with plastic that up until recently was just getting sadly driven into landfill. So then just the next slide. Have we been tested? Are we good for what we say we are? Absolutely. So we come from a mixed and diverse background, partly construction, partly recycling, partly plastics, partly environmental and sustainability. But our product is being proven and is utilised as fit for purpose. So we've been rigorously tested, both abroad and also within Australia. Our product has no leachate, so importantly, once it's converted to Resonate, it's inert and it has no leaching impact on the environment that it's used within. It has no impact through microplastics release, so it maintains appearance. It looks and feels the same as typical construction aggregate. It's the same to work with, but it has a whole lot of additional benefits. So we've been rigorously tested, as I mentioned, in Australia, America, Central America, through South Africa and into Europe. And happily, we have a lot of runs on the board now. So we'll just have a look at the next slide. So we're going into, just so you can get a visual on it, what was that environmental waste that you saw a few slides back, or that mixed e-plastic waste or community waste. Now it is concrete blocks, bricks, pavers, it's precast pipes, pits, drains, and it's pour in place concrete, and it's also in road projects. And the beauty of it is, in these projects, we can manage its use, but we can also manage its end of life, where it has an indefinite recyclability. It maintains integrity and continues to be beneficial in construction for an indefinite future. So that's something very positive about it. And we'll just have a look at our next slide. Where are we? Well, Melbourne was our 4th full-scale operation that we commissioned globally. As I mentioned, very happily, ANZRP and We Collect are now part of our key global partners. You can see we work with the United Nations Development Programme. We work with Habitat for Humanity. We now supported by the International Olympic Committee for Innovation and Sustainability. We have a full-scale operation in Costa Rica. We have a full-scale operation in Cape Town, South Africa. We have a full-scale operation in Pennsylvania, USA. And now, thanks to our joint venture with ANZRP, we have a full-scale operation in Melbourne, Victoria. So something we're very proud of. We have plants preparing to open in the South Pacific, in New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and through Southeast Asia. So lots happening, but Melbourne is our local one if you're interested. So just our next slide. Just a few of our projects. I guess we partner with Habitat for Humanity, just so you understand the transparent circular story that we're really passionate about. Those blue homes you can see are part of the over 500 social houses that we've built with Habitat for Humanity. This is part of the reason we won the International Olympic Committee's Award for Innovation in Sustainability. We take the community's disregarded waste that has no recycle availability. We've converted it to bricks, blocks, pavers, concrete, We partner with Habitat for Humanity. We've helped build entire communities. Then we've been engaged through our education program to teach the community how to recycle, what is the appropriate use of materials, and how to make good choices so that we don't end up with as much waste. Then those communities have been part of collecting waste so that their neighbours can have their houses built. So that's our social projects that we're very passionate about. And on the other side, the Bruscombe Innovation Centre, which you can see in New York there, that's another project that we've been engaged in. So the building there contains masonry block walls that are built from recycled plastic content. So the two ends of the scale, but both very important for us as an organisation. Just the next slide. The slide there with the white car on the road, that is a recent road project. So that's a freeway upgrade that we've done with our global partner, Global Via. And that is recycled content in asphalt roads. So right in that road that you're looking at there, we have e-waste that's been reclaimed, recycled into Resonate. That road has now been down for 18 months and is outperforming the roads that don't have the Resonate in it. And very importantly, at that road's end of life, we can reclaim the road, crush it, and then return it to a new road project. So our process has been extensively tested throughout the globe, and it performs in an outstanding way. So again, something we're very proud of, and something that we're happy to be working with ANZRP and the group in being able to facilitate right here in Australia. We have a road project underway right now in Melbourne, in Hobson Bay. And so in the coming weeks, there'll be new roads laid in Victoria that will be benefiting from the recycling done for the e-waste through our Tottenham facility. Just the next slide, thanks. Our business model that we hold importantly is our REAP model. So that is recover. Of course, it starts with that. We work to recover unwanted plastics. So again, we want to see valued plastics and valued items stay in the cycle. Our desire isn't just to grab everything and convert it to Resonate, but it's to take what no one else is able to utilize or repurpose, and then to make sure something valuable is done with it. So we recover these waste streams. We call them value streams because they still have a purpose, and that is our second part, enrich. So through our process, we take something that society would view of no value. In fact, it's a liability as it ends up in the environment. Through the process, we enrich it. And now what was a liability becomes a commodity. And it's a commodity that serves a real purpose in construction. So that's the second step. After recover, we enrich the waste. The third step, we appreciate it in value. It goes into something that instead of deteriorating value, it actually creates something that can have benefits socially, within the community, and also economically. And that's our final step, prosper. Because waste in the environment benefits no one. In fact, it causes a great amount of harm. But with the process that we utilize, we see real economic, environmental, and social outcomes that benefit all. So that's our REAP business model: recover, enrich, appreciate, and prosper. And that's what's happening right now today in Tottenham. And then I think our final slide. That was the elevator run through. Hopefully it raised a few questions and got you thinking. And I'm happy to help field anything that might have come up through that. Sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Shane. I see, Jan, you have a question?
Yeah, thanks, Shane. That was a really interesting presentation. And I think you touched on some of it, but I was just keen to understand. You mentioned that there's the recyclability of the products, of the road surface that you lay is being tested and trialled. What about some of the other products, the precast concrete blocks and the pipe? Are they equally recyclable at end of life, and are there any implications given that there is the Resonate product in there, or does it enhance what you make with it down the track?
Yeah, good question, John, and thank you. We've tested, it's been tested in everything. So importantly, Resonate as an aggregate doesn't lose its structural integrity regardless of the amount of times it's been through the cycle. So typically concrete, masonry, precast, and asphalt. They're all products that are crushed and recycled at their end of their life. So those same products that contain Resonate can follow the exact same process and be reutilized at end of life. In fact, it's already a typical process in roads and in concrete, and we do it also now with masonry products.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Jan. Thank you for providing those insights, Shane. Really appreciate it. Do we have any other questions? We probably have a couple more minutes. Carla, I see you raised your hand. Carla, would you like to jump up here?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that, Shane. Have you done any life cycle assessments, and do you know what the carbon benefits of the Resonate product is?
Yeah, and that's an important one, Carla. Thanks for raising it. We've completed our life cycle analysis in Costa Rica. That was our first full-scale plant, and as probably most people understand, you need to run at scale for 12 months to complete your LCA. So our Costa Rican one we completed, and we actually just released the LCA about 3 weeks ago. The takeaway from it is 1 tonne of Resonate will consume 800 kilos of waste plastic, and the end result is there's a 980 kilogram carbon saving when compared to the other options. So it's almost over a kilo for kilo is the carbon saving. For every kilo of waste we divert, there's a kilo plus of carbon saving from the atmosphere. We will have begun the process of our LCA for Tottenham in Melbourne. We're anticipating it to actually be better in some regards, just because of the efficiency of process in Australia. But if you worked off those figures, you can see pretty quickly there's a dramatic impact through the process.
Great, thanks.
No problem.
Thanks, Carla.
Well, if we don't have any other questions, can I ask a few? Or sort of semi-questions, semi-comments that I wanted to make. Obviously, from an ANZRP perspective, and we're trying to offer solutions for our members, one of the things we have been exploring is where e-waste is collected from members or member product, it can actually be streamed through our recyclers such that the plastic recovered can be tracked back to those collections, which could then subsequently go into the production of Resonate. So, you know, there is the option that we could, with our partnership with CRDC, be producing Resonate that members could track back to their own collections and deliver a fully circular story. And some of the customers of CRDC Victoria are looking at that. So councils who we take plastic from are then taking the Resonate back and putting it into projects. So it's not a full circular solution where the plastic goes back into IT product, but at least we can track that plastic is being utilised. So that's a good opportunity. And then the other one I just wanted to add is in Australia, we all know about Red Cycle and the previous attempts of soft plastic collection and so on. And a lot of that failed because of a lack of capacity to take the material. The great thing about Resonate is, as a construction aggregate, the demand for aggregate in the market is so big that, tell me if I've got the number wrong, Shane, but I think it was if every piece of waste plastic in Australia was turned into Resonate, it would only be 4% of the total aggregate used. So the market is there, so we can be confident that the material will get reused. Because in the end, there's only so many park benches and bollards you can make out of recycled plastic. Resonate is really good because it's got that opportunity to take all that material.
Yeah, and that's really good points, Warren. And yeah, 2.7% if we used all of the plastic currently. And so we've created those, those real circular stories elsewhere. We're excited to do it here in Australia. And just to the point, although the e-waste plastic isn't going back into electronic items, which would be the best first case scenario, the Brascombe Innovation Centre is still an excellent example of circularity within the industry. So when the the generators of electronic items support the utilization of Resonate in their own construction programs, because many of them build, they maintain, they renovate, they develop, then it's still a circular story. So their waste is becoming part of their program. So what was diverted is now coming back into their system. And that's why Braskem was so motivated to have the building constructed with Resonate products. And I think the same story will happen here in Australia.
Yeah, I think it's a good recognition that the economy of material is complex. It's not always nice, neat little circles, but people can make decisions to ensure that the end of life outcome for materials that they handle can go back somewhere else, and that's what Resonate can deliver. Well, I'm obviously a big fan of the project, and I'm really pleased for it to be up and running. If we don't have any other questions, no more, Rena? No one online? We are going to jump to, I'm going to hit you up with the Menti poll at the very end. Just if you want to scan that, we just want to get a little bit of feedback around, it's a simple thing, timing of these events in future. I know we have a few international guests here as well. We want to make sure the time is actually suitable. And we're always after feedback about what kinds of presentations do you find useful. So you want to jump on there. I love this live side of things. Oh, is that the old Menti question? That was the previous one for Pony Up. There we go. So while that's happening, the other thing I'd just mention is that obviously the Resonate process can take a whole range of plastics. So for members with your own warehousing facilities and so on, waste plastic, shrink wrap, strapping, plastic pallets, all those sorts of things, the Resonate facility can also take that material and process it. So we're keen to make sure the facility offers a solution for members who may have other sort of difficult plastic wastes. And I reckon Wesley is writing this all down frantically going, oh, I can see an opportunity here. Imagine doing a beach cleanup in Nullenby or something like that and getting the material recycled. Or I think it's a mangrove cleanup, is it, rather than a beach cleanup? Alrighty, so Katie, do we click forward and see the results there, or is it just coming through? Oh, here we go. All right, yeah, reuse regulation. That is a good one. I can just tell you now the government is seriously looking at it. It's probably, I reckon it's almost valuable for us to have a forum where we get a range of speakers talking about the opportunities. Our last forum, we had John Gertsakis from the Product Stewardship Centre of Excellence talking about that, but we really need to start looking at what are the practical outcomes. Batteries, big issue right now, and our relationship with the Battery Stewardship Council and the B-Cycle Product Stewardship Program. Obviously, NTCRS, we don't deal with the loose batteries, but the batteries that are recovered out of e-waste that gets processed, they still need to be addressed. People will have the option. Sorry?
Did you see on the chat that there's a comment on nationally aligned approach?
Yeah, a nationally aligned. So Barbara, a nationally aligned approach for what specifically? You'll have the opportunity in your feedback.
Sorry. So I always like to see anything that is being done in the space. I know we need to rely on councils a lot, but anything that is done in the space of recycling from a perspective of the businesses that have to comply with rules. So national regulation in a nationally aligned approach is the best way for us as businesses to do the right thing. It's very hard if we have one jurisdiction requesting us to do one thing and another jurisdiction something quite different.
Yep, indeed. Yes. No, I agree, Barbara. Fortunately, our regulation is a national regulation, but then it still does interact with the state governments, and particularly things like state e-waste to landfill bans. They're different in different states and have different impacts. You are right. I do understand that the states are being consulted under the scheme expansion and review, and hopefully we do get a degree of alignment. I think we're getting close to our time, and you've all been very generous to be here for a whole hour and a half. The last one was just, is this a good time? We're probably taking up your lunchtime, so I hope that you've had a snack while we've been talking, or is it maybe better later in the day? So that just helps us schedule our next one. Now, we are looking at May for our next event, and I can't remember the date. Was it 15th or 16th, Anne?
It is May 15 or 16, correct.
Okay, so you'll get a notification as soon as we lock that down. And I believe that'll be a hybrid event based out of Melbourne, so you can attend in person or online. Looks like the lunchtime session is good. So we are just going to close. Once again, here's your little feedback form. Good idea to just quickly provide some feedback now before you forget. I'd have to say thank you all for attending. I found those presentations really interesting and quite inspiring, things that we can actually do. I hope you appreciated it as well. And I hope you have a lovely week. No more questions. I will sign off, say goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And particular thank you to the speakers.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Warren.
Thanks, Warren.
Thank you.
Bye.
Fantastic.